Chapter 12. The Dark Night for the Princess. There was nothing more tumultuous than the other night. Madhvi kept strolling from one window to the other with the thoughts that were completely bewitched by those frozen feelings which now were urging to melt away in fusing desires. It was indeed intricate to comprehend if this was the effect of her changing hormones or a resurgence of a slumbering spirit. Sometimes she would think to let go of it and sometimes to preserve them for keeping her dying heart alive. Naturally, hidden feelings harm no one. She looked up high in the sky. It was a strange darkness of the night that rode in on a horse of pure midnight velvet, beaconed by the stars under the faded glow of waning moon. This was a blackness that Madhvi couldn't recall seeing before, one that was almost absolute. Helpless to catch any sleep, her eyes and minds were blurred with possibilities, each more fanciful than the next. The faint wind brushed against the water's surface in the pond of the front lawn of her chamber. The ripples ruffled the stillness of the surface and shattered her reflection. Slowly, she turned about to have a look at the sleeping prince who lay asleep, cuddling shimmeringly soft satin cushions on a carved couch. She looked back again up to the sky. Her eyes strayed around the unlighted clouds as if they were looking for a hope to see those stars that had been hidden behind a wall of foreboding clouds. While she was all engrossed in her search, a sulky, low voice called her name from behind. Madhvi. It was deep and pure. She turned around tentatively and to her surprise found that Roshan was standing and waiting for her attention. "Is there something you need?" she asked gently with a sweet-sounding tone. "No, yes. I want to tell you something." Roshan, encased in his usual inhibitions, found it complicated to express. Madhvi looked at him surprisingly, wondering what he was trying to say as he appeared before her in all his grandeur. She hadn't seen him as closely as he stood then, and she was struck anew by his fine looks. He was an attractive youth, tall, rather ungainly, with a thatch of black hair. His chiseled jaw lifted with a sober, pleasant smile. His eyes, a sparkling green so much like the depth of our ocean, and his soft, feather-like black hair brushed away from his brow. He was charming and fair. His voice was that of any royal boy, honeyed and sophisticated. "I have been shallow enough towards your patience and generosity. But I watch you, watching me with pity in your eyes, instead of any hatred or any love." He stammered frequently while he spoke. "But I know who is responsible for this." Roshan's pleasant smile seemed to fade away with every word he spewed to let go of the burden on his heart he had been carrying for no one knew how long. "You are brave and beautiful. You have hair like the wind, wild and free, eyes like the night, deep and mysterious. You don't look like any particular beautiful maiden. You are more than that. More divine, more influential. You have the look of adventure, of a spirit that can soar. And to me, that will always be more attractive than any color or shape in the universe." Madhvi stood stunned at his words, as it ever was for the first instance he spoke so much to her, and that too of her. "But I know I deserve nothing of these, for they do not belong to a mentally crippled and a physically fragmented man. They certainly belong to one who can safeguard them until his last breath at any price, and protect the dignity and sanctity of their sheer scent. He looked into her eyes while Madhvi averted her head and looked away in apprehension, while Roshan continued in soft, low voice. He seemed gathering the memories from the past as he looked out the window. When I was 8 months old, I knew every corner of the palace. Mother says I had just learned to walk, comparatively faster than the other kids of my age. By the time I was 10 months old, I had not left any spot in the sunflower field untraveled. That's how my mother liked to say it every time she would sing her love to me. I could hold a sharp blade and swing it fearlessly in the air at a mild age of 2, while my father would pretend to get defeated by me lying flat on the floor and then suddenly flinging on to catch me tight and rolling me on his soft paunch. Roshan's eyes sparkled more as he recollected his childhood memories, especially with his parents. In fact, Madhvi's complemented his with similar charm of love and affection of their separate but alike childhoods. I could even mount a baby pony at 3 and rode it on the thick sands of our grounds. Everyone in the kingdom believed that I would make the best emperor of our kingdom. Brave, fearless, and graceful. But then something happened. Something strange. Madhvi's nerves sank as she could feel the fear in her chest, waiting to get over with Roshan's furthering words to unfold the unread pages of a mystery unknown to all so far. She said no words but kept looking at him, allowing him the consistent pace. Mother tugged me and went out. It was just a while she had gone for. She said she would come back to check me. Roshan's frowned in determination, then released. I tried to keep my eyes shut but suddenly felt something appearing from the window. When I opened my eyes, all I could see was a figure covered with a long black robe from head to toe. I was petrified but helpless. Out of that immense fear, I was unable to move even for an inch to escape. So I buried myself between the cushions, as it was really frightening. What would a 3-year-old do? It stood right before me beside my bed and stretched its long, shabby arms towards me. His crooked, bony fingers, heightened with a broadly shaped blue stoned ring, slid under my chin, pinching my weak, pudgy cheeks to open my mouth, and then that dark, scary shadow poured few drops of some bitter juice onto my tongue from a small glass jar half filled with some green liquid. From that day on, I have been in some dark place. Something has been aching inside me. I have felt more pain every time than I knew before. Every time it was broken me into thousands of hurting pieces I have been before. He tried to pinpoint the cause for this unexplained pain, but failed. He tried to reason this unbearable burning, but did not find any. Everything felt so confused, just like a jumbled set of a puzzle. His sparkling green eyes glanced up again with hope as he approached to stand beside his lady, who was both panicky and worried for the suffering the poor prince had been through. But now I feel to reawaken and relive. Mother says it's the influence of your holy prayers and wholehearted allegiance towards our devout hymnal bond. For the last 6 months, all I have seen is the disappointment on your face, dark like the night sky above us, deep like unfathomable points of the sea, and quiet as these paintings on our walls. Now I wait for the day to come when I stand for you with all my grit and heart, the day when my parents hold their pride in me again, the day when people of Surishila see a new guardian in me, the day when you too reawaken and relive with me. Roshan concluded as his eyes were wholly fixated on Madhavi, who stood about blank at his sudden and straight articulation. It seemed tough enough for her to even catch a complete breath with every single pound in her breast as it beat faster and harder, sealing her ears with strong vibrations. She couldn't feel, see or hear for a while. She looked at Roshan leaving the chamber. Perhaps he needed to reflect on himself in isolation of what he had said, enough for that time. Then, seizing her stimulated emotions, she turned around to take a deep breath of dewy air. Her body leaned by windowsills, her hair fluttered in the air, her clothes clung to her body, arms tightly wrapped around her. There was nothing she could think to resolve this dilemma, especially when her mind and heart were battling around evidences accumulated by past few events which had taken part in her yet so incomplete life. Her body drained out all energy she had. She had to now give rest to it, so she gently pushed herself towards her bed, a large relaxing Chesterfield kept about a meter away from Princess' bed, which she had been using to sleep all by herself. No sooner she reached nearer to her bed, her heart lurched at the tiptoe of some swift moving steps. Her eyes rose as they received an alert by her ears. She might just be wondering who would approach to her in such wee hours of the midnight, but before she could turn around to seize a look, couple of armed men sprang off the window and dived unswearingly inside her chamber. Right on the same moment, they pounced together on indefensible lady. Madhavi retrieved her sentences momentarily and countercharged, walloping the men away. That helped her, stealing an opportunity to grab her sword that was lying near the headrest of the bed. As she stood to her defense, the man seized the moment, struck by her graceful, godly, heroic looks, eyes wide open, stretching upper lid up till her vault-mounted brows, with a stream of stimulating blood over their white, diluting with gall in deep corners. Madhavi, in her full rage, advanced to fight and gave an explosive counter to the two. She held the sharp-edged blade firmly in her hand. It flashed as he brought it over their heads and hummed a low, swift tone when she brought it down. Her quick slashes glinted intense lightning in the eye of swordsmen. They flunked to manage her unbroken attacks and couldn't stall any of her strikes. In one sharp drift, one out of the two dropped down. The view squeezed the organs of the other. He jumped out of the same window where he had come from to flee at the right moment, but could not escape, moreover, falling dead as he clumsily tumbled into the high walls of the palace. She dropped on the bed as if a puppet suddenly released of its strings, stunned at what all had just happened with her. As if it was sudden stroke of a brutal thunderbolt that stormed over her, first over her emotions and then and next on her body. Who were they? Who might have sent them? They were to kill me, or... A sequence of questions cropped up in her mind. Oh, Krishna, what all have you planned to show me? Why am I stuck in such a commotion of life, where I cannot decide for myself? I have no right of choice. I have nowhere to go, no one to express to. She broke down out of severe pain, the pain of her inner wounds, the pain of grief and devastation, and the pain of loneliness. As much as she tried to hold it in, the pain came out like an uproar from her throat in the form of a silent scream. This night had something to tell her, something under the midnight, yet close to the dawn of revelation. Roshan stood still by the door as he noticed blood streak on the floor and a dead body sprawling before where Madhvi was sitting sunk in her deep tremors. Saloni, wondering about Prince's motionless condition, peeped from behind and blenched in fear at the very sight, heaving deep breaths. She ran back to call the security. Vajraveer, Vishnukarma and Rudra appeared in the chamber instantly. Madhvi narrated the entire incident to them, that how she was attacked by two swordsmen and how she had to defend herself by killing the man. Rudra was highly annoyed with himself for not being able to keep to a proper security check. "We are fortunate that Madhvi and Prince are safe. Undoubtedly she is a brave princess," exclaimed Vajraveer. "But we must ensure their security." "So will it be, King," replied Rudra, though in a little sad but firm tone. Vishnukarma went near the dead body and studied it closely in order to look for a clue. Nevertheless, he had a raw idea who could be behind this lethal offense. He drew closer to the corpse's lifeless hand, which had a deep blue-inked Scorpio mark on it. With no further effort, he could easily perceive who was after that appalling alternative to defile the face of the kingdom, who would want to have realm away from his monarch, but he kept silence again. He still had to wait for the right time to unfold the hidden truths to Vajraveer. Only when he once could testify one of them on his own. Rudra looked at Vishnukarma as he was trying to absorb his insights and could easily grasp well that he discerned. There was a sheer hint in his eyes that tingled through him like electrical spark, winding his thought into one single determination of smashing those deadly hyenas down who had been feeding on the blameless flesh of his people. Vishnukarma calmed down his burning sensation with one soft blink of his eye that convinced his strategic anticipation for the future steps. Vishnukarma and Rudra first assured to tighten up the security for Prince, Madhvi and other members of royalty, as there were unquestionably now more such occurrences to happen in the future too, but how to control them was still a question.